Welcome back to Canadian Ruck, everyone. This is Jamie Gray, your host. This pod, we welcome Brett Beukeboom, Andrew Coe, Jeff Hassler, Ben LeSage, all from the Canadian Rugby Players Association. Now, there are many more on the association, but these were the only four that were able to commit to some timelines, and we thank them that they were here, and we definitely missed others that weren't able to join us on this call, but that is coming up soon. Before we get there, though, we just have a little plug, which we always have to do. Find us everywhere. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up the Canadian Ruck. We're everywhere on social media. And our email is thecanadianruck@gmail.com. Make sure you contact us if you have questions or thoughts or anything. Love to hear from you. Remember also, when you're watching and listening, make sure that you're following and subscribing, and just as importantly, sharing. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. If all else fails, check us out on the website, thecanadianruck.weebly.com. East Coast Roast Coffee is an independent micro roaster coffee in St. John, New Brunswick. What microbreweries are to beer, East Coast Roast is to coffee. They source from independent farmers and co-ops all over the world and roast in small batches to bring something interesting to the local coffee scene. If you're into really fresh coffee, head on over to their website at eastcoastroast.ca or pick up beans from Jeremiah's, Paris Crew, the Art Warehouse, or Woodchucks in St. John, New Brunswick. Let's go on the world of rugby. Well, let's take a look at some local stuff here in Canada. Got a few things on the go, and you're all well aware of this. Canada names a 30-man roster. So Coach Kingsley Jones has named his 30 members of his 32-man traveling roster. So he's got 2 spots left. He assigned Matt Heaton, Ben LeSage, who is going to be on the pod shortly, and Lucas Rumble as the co-captains during the 2 matches in Wales and England. 2 remaining spots are pending fitness testing from players that are coming back from injury. 25 of the players are coming out of the MLR, 9 of those from the Toronto Arrows. 11 are uncapped, so this is an exciting time for those lads. Tyler Ardron, Evan Olmstead haven't been selected, among 9 others, basically due to injuries or club commitments. It'll be 632 days since Canada last played, and I believe that was against South Africa back in the 2019 World Cup. Although they're missing some key players, they do have a good, tough, and committed group traveling to the UK for these tests, so it's going to be very exciting to watch these matches. Men's 7 squad being named on Monday. Well, most of it's being named on Monday. By Monday, they're going to be down to 14 names for the roster that's going to Tokyo. From there, 13 will be named for the traveling roster with 12 active players. The 13th is there and can be used if a player is injured during preliminary matches. That's how I understand it. If somebody gets injured during the actual round robin or medal playoff rounds, you can't bring that 13th man in. So you have Harry Jones, you have Nate Hirayama as their locks, and then you have guys like Andrew Coe, Connor Traynor, and others. Looking at that roster, those just few guys here in Canada's men's side is looking pretty good. So, hats off, cheering these guys on. Hopefully they can do well over there. Same with the women. The women's will be named soon if it hasn't been yet. And they're ranked 3rd in the world right now. They've got a really talented squad, and it's going to be exciting to watch the women tear it up in Tokyo as well. Toronto Arrows, though, they're continuing to face challenges. If the Arrows lose this weekend, they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs this year. When the Arrows face Old Glory DC and the New England Free Jacks in July, they're also going to be down 9 players who are in the UK with Canada. 2 others will be leaving to represent Uruguay at that time as well. That's roughly 40% of the roster. Very hard to compete when that happens. Mark Winnicor, Toronto's chief operating officer and GM, isn't complaining, though, as one of the primary jobs is to help stock Canada's men's squad. But as he states, it's a double-edged sword. Couple these 9 to 11 guys out with their national side, plus those who are injured, and the Arrows are in a rough place. Saying that, though, I think what the Arrows have done during this global pandemic is terrific and has been inspiring. They're the only Major League Rugby team playing away from home consistently, away from their families consistently, and not having the luxury of home field advantage all season. The body can stay strong, but the mental toll on these players, coaches, and staff must be tremendous. Winnicor, who has not seen his family since March 18th, goes on to state, not being able to go home to your friends and family and having any life outside the situation has, I think, been pretty tough on us. In a lot of cases, we just haven't been able to overcome things. We've been resilient, though. Yeah, I do think there's no question that the situation we're in bothers some people. The players are human beings. Some are able to deal with the situation better than others. We're not where we want to be, but having to play an entire season on the road does not make it a level playing field for us. We know what's going in. We knew that going in. Personally, watch out for the Arrows in 2022. Man, they are going to be unbelievably strong after going through what they've gone through. Breastfeeding in the UK? Well, Emily Brierly, 29, had a photo snapped of her last week breastfeeding her 14-month-old baby. She was subbed off so that she could be mum and look after her daughter, Arabella. She's received a lot of positive feedback on social media for this act, and I think that's great. I've actually seen this in person in the past as I watched a women's game here in New Brunswick, where one of the players came off, breastfed her baby, and then went back onto the pitch for the remainder of the match. I thought it, like the story of Brierly, was pretty cool. Great on you. Women are amazingly strong. What's going on in the MLR this weekend? Well, Saturday's matches, there's 5 games in total. Utah Warriors are in the Big Apple facing Rugby United New York at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. NOLA Gold and your Toronto Arrows play at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And Saturday's last match is the Houston SaberCats as they're on the road playing Rugby Atlanta at 8 p.m. Eastern. On Sunday, the San Diego Legion are hosting the LA Guiltinis at 6 p.m. Eastern. And the last match of the weekend sees the Seattle Seawolves at home against the Austin Gogroni at 8 p.m. Eastern. Coming up next, though, Brett, Andrew, Jeff, and Ben for the Canadian Rugby Players Association. Check out Woodchuck's Axe Throwing in St. John, New Brunswick. This locally owned venue provides a fun, safe, and engaging atmosphere for everyone. Grab a pint from the New Brunswick craft beer list that is full of tasty brews while you enjoy a view of the St. John Harbor. Be a part of the community and join their summer axe throwing league, which starts Tuesday, June 22nd. More details can be found on their website at woodchucksaxthrowing.ca or on Instagram and Facebook. Welcome back to the Canadian Rec. We have 4 members of the Canadian Rugby Players Association on this call. We've got Brett Beukeboom, Jeff Hassler, Andrew Coe, and Ben LeSage, and they're joining us from different locations all around North America with a variety of things going on in their lives, but they want to take the time to talk to the listeners about what the RPA stands for and what its goals are. So guys, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you all on the pod call.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's jump right in. So Jeff, your name, when you look at the RPA website, your name's kind of at the top of the hierarchy, just for whatever reason. If you spearheaded this, I'm not really sure, but talk to us about how this idea came about and the people you've brought in or helped along the way so far in this process.
Yeah, I think I've kind of gotten out of playing for the national team now and transitioning out of the sport. And the senior men's and sevens boys put me up for selection to be their representative on the Rugby Canada Board of Directors. So from last May, I've been involved in that, kind of navigating COVID and all the things going on with that. And then kind of just noticed a bit of a gap over the last 4 years within Rugby Canada with not only the 4 programs themselves, but the programs in Rugby Canada, and just thought there was a really good opportunity to try to get all of the programs united, working together, pushing for things that players need and want at professional sport level. And then, just seeing that we don't have a players association and we've got, 200 plus athletes that represent Canada on a regular basis. And we had no real support system for them. So that was a major point that I wanted to do as a guy on the Rugby Canada board, and went through all the early hurdles of getting it up and running. And now we've got a great group of individuals involved that are really trying to work hard and push to just make rugby in Canada a better place for our athletes.
So that's great. So can you talk to us, or maybe Brett, you can, I'm not sure, but can you talk to us about some of those initiatives that you're trying to get started on behalf of the 200 or so, Canadian rugby players that are out there?
Yeah. So, some of the initiatives we're looking to build on, and we've been working on behind the scenes recently. I've just been working with possible sponsors. If any businesses are interested or anyone's interested to find out more information, please contact us. And really, we're looking to help support the athletes in all aspects, kind of off the pitch and on the pitch, because as Jeff alluded to earlier, there's and being a professional athlete, it kind of sucks you into this world where you're just totally committed to being the best athlete you can be, and you aren't thinking about transitioning, like you aren't you aren't thinking about transitioning into a career after sports. So it's kind of to bridge the gap between that professional athlete into a career post rugby.
Okay, so
And
it's not.
if anyone else has anything to add, I think I probably missed a few things, so feel free to.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's three different pillars that sort of align with what we're trying to do at the RPA. There's the mental side of things, making sure that players' mental well-being is taken care of, making sure that their voices are being heard. It's an avenue for players to voice their opinions and try and promote change that's needed within Rugby Canada and their individual organizations and teams. Then there's also the physical side of things, making sure that players' bodies are healthy. Rugby is a pretty high contact sport, and the four guys here have a lot of injuries to show that. But making sure the athletes are taken care of physically and also professionally, trying to get guys to think about post-rugby days and their professional career and help build some skills so that when their time is up playing for Canada, that they're not left out to dry, that they have a solid base of professional skills that'll do well in whatever their post-retirement plans are.
It's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of good things that have to be tackled there. So we're hearing kind of from everybody. We got some sevens voices. We've got some, guys that are retired. Ben, what about you? You're playing professionally for the Arrows. Why now? Like, why was this a good initiative for you to get involved in?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I've been sort of in the Canada environment for 4 or 5 years now, and this has been something that a lot of people have talked about in different iterations and different versions of it, and how it could potentially benefit the current player base. And I think we just reached a point where it was like, let's get the ball rolling, right? Enough talk and let's get into some action. So I think there's been a great group of players, some of us on this call, but a lot who weren't able to make it as well, who've sort of put their hands up and willing to be that test case and really run through what the first iteration of this Players Association will look like. I think it'll probably evolve over time and hopefully get bigger and professionalize, and there'll be more kind of support that we can offer, really on some of the pillars that Co and Brett talked on. It's what are some of the immediate needs of the player base and what can we do right away to help them. And so, I mean, as a current player, I think definitely able to provide some sort of opinions and feedback from the current player base. And I think it's important that we've got a diversity of thought across the whole player group. So we've got representatives from all programs, from different experience levels, from some new joiners to the Rugby Canada to some veteran alumni. And so kind of bringing in that broad perspective across a number of different fronts has really been able to, I think, hopefully help us tailor what we're able to offer for it to be all encompassing, like I said. So for guys who are just joining the program, it's also kind of continuing to benefit alumni ongoing even after they're done playing rugby.
That's fair. So you've all kind of alluded, there's a lot more people involved. It's not just you four guys. There's women involved. There's sevens programs. There's 15 programs, and it's busy right now. People are training for the sevens for the Olympics, and people are playing still, or they're working still. So who else is involved? Like, who else can if we're looking up at your website, like, what other names are there that people are going to recognize that might help them want to give thought to helping out this organization?
Yeah, so we got a good group, as Ben alluded to. We've got two representatives from each program, and then we've also got two BIPOC representatives, from one male and one female. So apart from us on the call, we've got Liam Underwood, who is an ex-sevens player, sevens and 15s. So we've got a good group of people that are currently playing and retired that have mutual interests in all of the players. We also have Pam Finette-Buisa from the women's sevens, Caroline Crossley from the women's sevens, Laura Russell from the women's 15s, and Alyssa Allery from the women's 15s, and Teme Tope from the BIPOC, and Doug Frazier from the men's BIPOC. So we've got a very good mix of people, and everybody has done a massive job putting their hand up and taking on responsibilities. We've done a really good job of splitting up responsibilities, so everyone has to spearhead something. and there's no sleepers on the team. Everyone's working hard.
Just like a true rugby team right there. So Brett, you're retired from the game now. What advice can you do, or what can you do to help this organization and the Rugby Players of Canada? You've got two guys in their early 20s. Jeff's still playing, but what advice can you help these guys and girls with as somebody that's gone through the ringer and you're now on the other side, starting back in the business world?
Well, I think it goes back to, I guess, the pillars Co was speaking about, just offering any advice that if members have, or any athletes that have any questions. I'm always available to talk. But again, taking care of your mind. It's a stressful sport. It can take quite the toll on you mentally, especially when injuries pop up, stuff like that. So it's about taking care of your mind and body, then hopefully putting contacts in place so they can transition properly out of a professional career and into a career post rugby.
Awesome. Jeff, what are your thoughts on what this can do for this current crop and generation of rugby players in Canada?
Yeah, I think it's massive what we can do. I've spoke to the USRPA recently and throughout this whole process, and they're only a year or two ahead of us, but they have done a really good job of getting some stuff in place. I think the wellness program that we're putting together is going to be kind of the cream of the crop, and giving people, options and availability to seek out help, working with Sport Canada. And we're also working with the International Players Association as well, who are highly supportive of this. And then also mention Rugby Canada. They also saw the need for it. And usually there's kind of an adversarial aspect to that, but they're fully supportive of it. They see that it's really important. And, we're in the early stages. We're just trying to get the information out there and build these kind of platforms and base structures to push on. But in a couple of years' time, we really want to have a great solid foundation that it's kind of the next generation of players will really benefit from. So it's pretty selfless from a lot of these athletes right now that are putting the time and effort in that might not see the direct results of their hard work immediately. So, just giving them as much support as we can on and off the field is the number one goal.
Awesome. And it's not like you've created a player union where you go on strike over things, right? It's really about making sure that the players' voices are heard, that there's steps in place post rugby, that there's proper protocol in place if they have to voice concerns, about injury, mental state, things like that. Andrew is one of the younger guys on the call, and you play sevens, and sometimes there's you read in the newspaper the 7s and 15s programs, not necessarily the players butt heads, but maybe the philosophies butt heads. How is this working out for you? You're prepping for the Olympics, and you're being invested in this massive endeavor through the RPA. Like, how are you able to manage all this right now?
Yeah, like Jeff said, we don't necessarily see the benefits today, but we will in a couple of years. And, speaking to older guys on the team like Nate and Harry, and they've tried their best throughout the years to try and leave their legacy and try and leave the program better than when they came in. And this is a way to do that. We were divided, all four teams were divided when negotiating with Rugby Canada and whatever they wanted to negotiate with. So having the strength in numbers, having all four teams united when negotiating these sorts of things will help with, anything that the players want, right? So hopefully down the road, there's not too many conversations that need to have adversity with Rugby Canada, but knowing that all four teams are united together really helps.
Jeff mentioned earlier, sometimes when talks like this happen, sometimes there's some pushback from Rugby Canada, but now they seem to be on board. Ben, what's your thoughts? Like you're stuck kind of down in Atlanta, but from your perspective, you've got 8 or 9 guys on that Aero squad that are going to be playing in England and Wales next month. What are the thoughts around this with those guys?
I think kind of in general, it just streamlines some of the feedback channels. To your point in terms of how do you get change or for your program. Right now it's been sort of unidirectional, and maybe you have a player representative for your one program. But I really think kind of hit it nail on the head there with the strength and numbers piece. There's always going to be differences between the programs in terms of some teams are centralized, some teams are spread out, some teams have different windows here or there, different competitions. So there's always going to be different sort of needs and resources across the teams. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all rugby players who play for Canada, and there's a lot of crossover between that. So really just being able to unite on those fronts and have those conversations internally makes it a more efficient when we bring it to Rugby Canada and say, hey, as a player group across all 4 programs, this is what we've determined as a priority right now. These are the sort of top items we'd like to address, rather than them have to sort of weed that out based on 4 separate conversations they're having. So I think they're understanding as well that probably to their own benefit as well to kind of help initiate some of those player and program conversations amongst each other. And so they can have sort of one big dialogue going on, then 4 separate ones that they're trying to juggle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll just pipe in on that as well. I think that's one of the biggest points that's come over the last year. I'm constantly communicating with these guys on whether it's this tour coming up or what they need, or going into the next cycle, and having that constant communication has been so much more effective for us and for Rugby Canada, instead of having things just sit there and possibly fester. Just having all those communication streams coming, all the 4 programs have had the same feedback and the same information coming. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of difference in opinions here and there, but everybody's on the same page, and it's not like, oh, I heard this about that program, why did that happen, or that sort of thing. So I think, again, this group's been pretty outstanding, and really kind of tried to tackle some of these things pretty early on. So hopefully it just gets better from here.
Sounds like there's a lot of transparency that might not have been there before. Is that another reason why it's kind of happening now as opposed to 5-10 years ago? Or
yeah, I think so. I think there was definitely a gap over the last definitely 5 years, and it's not like it's not public knowledge, some of the things that have occurred, and there was just a need for things to change, and for the relationship between the players and Rugby Canada to change. Not that it needed to be astronomical, but there needed to be another level of trust that is starting to form. And I know these guys, they work with the coaches really closely as well now, and then that goes up the channels, and we've got direct access to the people that we need to speak to at all times. So it's definitely been a benefit.
that's awesome. What can people do to help? Just maybe a general rugby fan, or is there something that Canadian rugby fans can do, or is this, this is our baby, we're working with it, and if we need help, we'll come to you? But or does it work both ways, where there's support offered other ways?
Any help at this point is beneficial, right? If people want to help by offering services that they can offer to players, or just by supporting us and being up to date, or feedback as to how they can help, any sort of anything helps. We just started this not too long ago. We're happy to interact with the rugby community in Canada, because they've been so supportive of us throughout all of our years. We also want to help them and give back to the community. So, I mean, yeah, it's a tough one to answer, but any support helps.
I guess I'm looking at it, not, maybe somebody's got money, they want to donate it, but maybe it's somebody that's a lawyer, and they can come in and help you with legal aspects of contracts. Or maybe it's an engineer that takes, Ben under his wing and says, I heard you want to be an engineer. Here's some, guidelines, or here's some steps. I'll be your mentor. Like, would you be looking for things like that as well? Or is it strictly sports psychology and physiotherapy? And
no, it would be anything. We just started an alumni network, which was, in my opinion, lacking. So there's a ton of alumni who are connected and trying to give back and give any sort of resources, whether it be job opportunities or just a chat about industry insights. So that's something that the general public can offer as well, whether it be a lawyer who is a rugby fan, and there's potential lawyers on the rugby team that want to get to know a bit more information about what it takes to be a lawyer and whether they're cut out for it. Yeah, all forms of communication are open with the RPA. If you go on our website, there's emails right there for anybody on the team the RPA team. So if there's any supporters out there that want to offer services, whether it being any sort of professional services or just offer insights, we're happy to talk to them.
Awesome. I guess in 30 seconds, let's kind of sum up what you feel the RPA from your perspective can do. So let's start with Brett.
Well, I think the RPA can really help in aiding players both on and off the pitch to have success. And not only that, but I think we could unite, Canadian rugby through a whole by just being transparent with what we're trying to do as teams and players as a country.
Awesome. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, what I had always kind of envisioned it to be is not just an entity where it's like, oh yeah, you play for Canada and you're part of the Players Association. I want it to be a genuine resource that players can go to in any time of need. If they're struggling mentally or physically or have issues with anything, nobody knows what everyone's going through in their life at that time, and building a resource bank of people that are willing to help and that want to support Canadian athletes. And then for us to really steam ahead with things, with collective bargaining and just, changing the way that Rugby Canada players get to interact with Rugby Canada fans and Rugby Canada themselves.
That's great. So we've got two answers so far, and it almost sounds like you're both talking about aiding and helping rugby players the best you can through different eyes. So Brett's is like the transparency of how things work, and just like we want to make sure that you have resources for whatever you're going through. So same things, but different ways to get there. That's awesome. Andrew, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to what both these guys said. It's giving the players skills and resources, whether it's mental, physical, professional, so that these players can succeed and aren't felt alone in their journey throughout their international rugby career. There's a ton of people who are here to help, and the RPA is one of those people who just want to help the players be the best people that they can be, not just rugby players, but people in general.
Awesome. Good philosophy too, like helping people be successful on the pitch, off the pitch. That's awesome. That's great. And Ben, lastly with you, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we'll echo what everyone else said. I think I agree with that completely. I think it's really just about, I think when you look at Canadian rugby players, a lot of guys have to make decisions early on in their career, whether they're going to pursue rugby or pursue something else. And I think as we build up that support system, hopefully it's not rugby or something else. And there's an understanding that those can be done in comparison. And if you do choose that rugby pathway, you're not putting the rest of your life on hold and starting from scratch when you're coming out of it. So hopefully sort of reducing that burden of being a professional or an international athlete will help kind of get more of the younger up and coming players involved, stick around in the game longer. And I think ultimately that'll really benefit us on the field and the product that we're able to put out there.
That's great. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Did we miss anything? Is there anything that needs to be, I guess, addressed or spoken so that people can understand this a little better?
I think it's really, you kind of asked what the community and rugby fans can do right now. And I think that's an evolving question, but really the priority for us going into the next sort of few months will be the player signups and get player buy-in. So I think sort of what can players do? It's to put their hands up and sign up for the Players Association and get excited about the product that's going to be offering. Feel free to kind of reach out to anyone on the board to ask questions about why does this benefit me or where is this going and what can I see potentially in the short term and the long term. So I think the more critical questions that we get, hopefully the more we can answer and improve buy-in, but at the same time, potentially get some new ideas and feedback that we can continue to incorporate and sort of allow the PA to evolve. So yeah, really just promoting that player sign up and as we grow and kind of build a presence across that, I think that'll open a lot more doors in terms of where we can take it.
That's great. So I think, Jeff, you mentioned all the email addresses, maybe it was Andrew, are on the website. What is the website? How can people find this?
It is CanadianRPA.ca, where, on the website, we list our pillars. We put what we stand for. And all the email addresses for every single one of the board members is on there. Strongly recommend anybody who has any questions, comments, concerns to reach out to any of the board members to have those quarrels answered.
Awesome. Is there any social media sites at the moment?
We do have an Instagram page, which is Canadian RPA as well. So follow, like all of our posts, share them. We really want to get the word out for the Canadian rugby community to what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And the more people we can get involved, the better.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. Unless anybody has anything else to add, this has been great. I think it's been a long time coming as a Canadian rugby fan for the last 30 plus years. This is amazing to see, and I'm glad that you four plus everybody else on the board have come together to get this organization started and kicked off. And I imagine it's going to do great things for the players, rugby players in Canada over the next, many, many, many years. So thank you for that. Thanks so much, gent. This is great news for Canadian rugby. Sevens, women's, men's, 15s, everything. What you're part of spearheading along with the rest of your committee is going to transcend, I think, how rugby is viewed and played and looked at from a player's perspective, from an admin perspective, from a fan perspective. So great on all of you for getting this set up. I, along with many others, are looking forward to some great initiatives from the CRPA. Coming soon, we've got Dr. Summer Christie. She's going to be our next guest. She was a really interesting and amazing conversation. Andrew Monroe, his school year's winding down. He and I will be chatting soon. Harry Jones and the men's sevens will be doing a little dissecting of a game, getting ready for the Olympics. Tommy Woods, Alicia Allaire, and I think hers is going to be put on hold until after the Olympics. And Andrew Coe is going to be coming on and doing a solo call as well here shortly too. So we got some good names coming up as usual. All right, so lastly, just want to thank everybody. Keep spreading the good rugby word. So when you hear this message today about the CRPA, make sure you're sharing it so other people understand what's going on. I always have to thank my son Rylan for supplying us with our tunes. It's great that he's been willing to join me on this podcast journey and make some intro and outro music. As always, use my email, use social media to request topics, future podcasts, guests, questions, what have you. Don't hesitate to reach out. Until the next time, this is Jamie. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and most importantly, keep on rocking.